Hi, everybody. Tim Kitcher here, the voice of NBA Jam. Welcome to the Backcourt Violation Podcast. You bring the jelly, and they'll bring the jam. Ooh, boom shakalaka.
You got an angel with you right now. Just got here, and he's gonna help.
Kid sees an angel?
Yeah, he must. That's the signal.
Okay.
Go get him for the championship.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Backcourt Violation, the basketball podcast, season 2, episode 4. We've got a special one today. I'm bringing on a close friend of mine, someone that I've gotten to know throughout the last year, Stephen Gillaspie, one of my good draft friends. Please say hello to everyone.
Hello to everyone. How's it going, Tyler? Thanks for having me on the show, brother.
You know, I wanted to have you on because me and you pretty much talk draft all the time.
All the time, dude. You won't leave me alone about it. It's just
pretty much. I won't leave anyone alone about it. But we're getting past the halfway point, or crossing that line in the NBA draft. So I wanted to have you on.
That's nuts, by the way. Thanks for just dropping that bomb on me. That's nuts. Like, I have no idea we're already halfway through. It's flying by.
It seems like it's going quicker with the amount of fun we're having lately. But before we get into some fun stuff we have on the list, I want you to plug away everything. Kind of give everyone a little bit of a background, because you're a grinder in the draft world, and I have a lot of respect for the hard work you're putting out. So please go crazy right now. This is your moment.
All right, man. I'll try not to mess this up. And thank you again for the kind words, though, man. I appreciate you letting me be here on Backcourt Violation. And like you said, it's been fun getting to know you. And shout out to the rest of the No Ceilings crew that I've had to. We're collecting them like Infinity Stones over at the show that I host called Draft Capital. And it's a podcast that me and president of the network that I work with, Off the Ball Network, my buddy Chris LeBron, and I co-host that show. And just like you guys, man, we're talking basketball all the time. We specifically focus on the draft and getting to know fun folks like yourself and the rest of your crew. We've had a number of folks on already, and the downloads are much too kind, I think, to my abilities. But, I credit all of that to the incredible guests that I've had on lately. And, man, it's just been a fun time. So, I'm on Twitter at Stephen G Hoops. That's Stephen with a PH, just like Steph Curry, but not said like Steph Curry. We talked about that earlier, Tyler. Stephen G Hoops on Twitter, and I'm posting clips and stuff all the time. I am a freaking film junkie. I can't get enough of it. I'm constantly, consuming it and cutting it, editing it, and posting it. And I just posted a big board on my Substack too that we're going to be talking about here in a little bit too, Tyler. So, go on Substack and look up Stephen Gillaspie, and you can find me on there as well.
Yes, I mean, he's a warrior. He's an absolute grinder out there. So if you follow him on social media, go to his Substack, like he's saying. He does some sensational stuff with the draft world. And I'm not just saying that because I have him on the screen and I'm looking at him right now, but he's a grinder.
Well, I appreciate that, man. You are too, man. Of course. You guys motivate me all the time.
Well, Steven kept stealing everyone to come onto his show, and he stole me too. And then I was like, all right, enough of this. I got to get him on Backcourt and have some real fun with him. So,
there's no time limit here. Like
no time limit. This is the torture chamber. So
I can't let my hair down here. There's room to play.
So you released your big board. What was it, Friday or Saturday?
Oh man, it was on the 1st. So
okay,
I released it
Saturday.
on the 1st. Yep.
It seems like it was 3 weeks ago. It was literally, yesterday. So
yes,
we're recording on Sunday night. It was awesome. You hit it out of the park like you do with everything.
Thank you.
But I thought of a little fun segment that, at No Ceilings, we're doing some draft stuff there too. And we're going to have a little bit of our updated big board segment. A lot of the guys haven't seen mine yet. So I thought it would be fun if me and you, I haven't even looked at yours entirely, or I don't remember the top lottery.
I don't either,
thought it would
so it's cool.
I thought it would be fun if we did, we revealed our lottery, and we're going to go 14-1, one by one, and we could discuss each player. My lottery, I'm probably going to get some pitchforks for what I have going on with this list right now, but it's going to be fun. So, I mean, if you want to get after it, I'm going to let you do the honors. You get to name your 14th, and then I'm going to name my 14th, and we'll just go one by one. And you can tell me I'm crazy, or, I understand that, but go ahead. Who do you got at number 14? Because I looked at your list. I don't remember it heart by heart. I promise. I'm not lying to the listeners.
No, that's all good. And, we're all crazy here, Tyler, so don't even worry about it. Yeah, so 14, and I'm going to get into a little bit of – I'm probably going to rub people the wrong way, right, because there are some do's and don'ts when it comes to allegedly people's draft philosophy and stuff like that. And one of these, kind of you're not supposed to do's in the draft world or take small players, right? And at 14, I previously had him at number 9 on my 1.0, but I promise I didn't bring him down because of his height. That's Kennedy Chandler from Tennessee.
Okay.
Guard there is a real good table setter, very athletic, quick twitch type of guard. He's 19 years old. He's listed, 6 foot, 6'1", just depending on wherever you're going. He might even be smaller than that. Who knows? But, I'm a big fan of his game, not only because of his ability to, set up his teammates and things like that, but I love his defense, man. He just gets up. He's not afraid to challenge shots. He's not afraid to play passing lanes. They don't even always have him as kind of a point of attack defender. Sometimes he kind of guards off ball, which is pretty cool to see someone who's quote unquote small be able to have that versatility on the defensive end. Granted, it's college, so maybe that doesn't necessarily scale up at the next level, but it's still fun to see. You still like to see guys who are able to kind of play different positions and things like that, despite their size. His offense, over the last month or so when I dropped my 1.0, it's gone down a little bit as far as efficiency and things like that. But that defensive intensity is actually kicked up. Last month, he was graded out in the 48th percentile per synergy on the defensive end. He's all the way back up to the 83rd percentile now. So he's made a lot of strides on that end. And offensively, even though it's taken a dip, he's still about average to above average, depending on where at on the offensive end that you're evaluating his game. So real big fan of Kennedy Chandler. He's kind of one of these my guys that everybody has on their draft, boards and whatnot. Big fan of Kennedy Chandler.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll just go on Kennedy first before I set the world on fire. But Kennedy's one of those guys that I think a lot of people are cooling off on, and I can't get rid of him. I'm right there with you, Steven. I like the way he plays. I know we're going to have a little segment later that Steven thought of. This was a great idea, but we're going to call it some draft taboos, where it's things you're scared to do or things that people are scared of when evaluating or drafting prospects. And, Steven just hinted on one, which is, the smaller point guards. Now we're getting scared of them. And I understand that with how the NBA is translating. We're getting guys like Ben Simmons playing the point, or, even LeBron at times. And it's, Cade Cunningham's coming into the league at 6'7" as a primary ball handler.
Luka Doncic.
Right? We're all getting scared of these little guys. Like, we're all scared of the Kembas and stuff. I'm just one of those guys that if you could play, you can play, and we'll figure out the rest of it later. And I like the way Kennedy plays. He's got the lightning quick speed, but he plays really good control. I'm like you hinted on it perfectly. I think the defense really is something that stands out to me that I think, people are talking about it. I don't know if it's getting enough attention, though, because if you're going to be undersized and you play with that chip on your shoulder, you're going to catch people's attention. And I really like how Kennedy plays. So I'm right there with you. I had him just outside my updated lottery.
How dare you?
I still have him right. He's battling to go right back. So I hear you. But
so you're telling me you can have a guy not in the lottery and still like him at the same time? That's
it's weird how that
crazy
works out. Okay, I'm going to start this off with a tornado siren. I got Jalen Duren at 14.
Whoa. Anthony Bennett of Toronto.
Okay.
So I understand everyone's in love with him. I understand. And Jalen Duren, if you don't know who he is, you're listening. Welcome to the draft. I promise you, you're safe here. Jalen Duren's about 6'10", 6'11", looks like the Hulk. A lot of, Dwight Howard comparisons in the beginning of the season. I get it. I understand. I saw the last game where he looked a lot better shooting the ball. This was my big board rankings before that. So I understand everyone that's going to be really excited and think he's a top 7 guy or he's a top 5 guy. Like, I get it. Corey at No Ceilings, the draft dude.
Shout out.
Corey's pretty much gotten in a fight with all of us because he's a big Jalen Duren guy, and you have guys you believe in. And I'm not saying I don't believe in Duren. I just think he's a lottery guy that I don't know if I'm taking him top 6, top 7. Now, he can work his way back up there, but just want to see a little bit more of the season of if the offense comes around. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I could talk about him now, or I could talk about him where I think he should go later.
Okay.
But,
Well,
I mean,
well, then we can just go to your 13th. How about that?
Okay, man. So
if you don't, you can pick who you want to talk about. This isn't, that's for sure.
No,
this isn't Arkham Asylum. Okay, you can pick what you want.
Oh, dude, I love. We could talk Batman if you want, but here.
Did we just hook everyone and then decide to change up and go Batman route? No.
Hey, shout out just real quick. I think Robert Pattinson has the potential to be the best Batman of all time. Just throwing that out there if we want to set the world on fire.
I can't wait for that movie.
It's gonna be so good. But anyway, number 13. You're talking about Arkham Asylum setting the world on fire. The dude that I have in 13. He's starting to trend that way on a lot of boards now. I'm such a big freaking Torrey Eason fan, dude, out of LSU.
Oh, our boards are going to be nuts. Okay, so tell me about why do you like Torrey Eason? Because I can't get on the train yet. And draft Twitter and the draft world are foaming at the mouth. So hit me with sell me this pen, as Corey and Albert would say. Sell me this pen, Torrey Eason.
That's an incredible bid on the Draft Act.
I know, it is good.
But So let me ask you this. If I'm selling you something, I'm not just going to walk up to you and crazy car salesman you. You're just hey, what are you in the market for right now? What kind of basketball player do you like?
Let
me ask you this. Are you here, we'll infomercial this. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you like defense?
Do you to make this a segment? Do you like defense?
Do you like defense? Do you like really strong basketball players? Do you like freakishly athletic guys who are able to contort their bodies mid-shot and finish over the top of somebody? Then we have a player for you. That's Torrey Eason out of LSU, man. He is so fun to watch. I think that he's already too strong in the college ranks right now. He gives me OG Anunoby vibes, man. He's big, he's strong. And he doesn't shoot. Here's the thing. The reason he's only 13th for me, he could be higher. The reason he's only 13th for me is because he's only shooting about 28% from deep. But right now, he's still giving you 16 points per game, 7 rebounds, and almost an assist. And he's giving you over 3 stocks per game coming off of the bench for LSU. What a luxury to have, by the way. But anyway, he projects that he's going to be able to guard the 2 through 4.5 range, so it's small ball 5 players, things like that. And I think that he has the potential to get better. He gives me these vibes that we get from, Jimmy Butler's, from OG Anunoby's, from DeAndre Hunter's, these types of defensive guys who work so hard, who are so strong, and they're still figuring out their game. That defense is going to be what they rely on. I love to imagine how he projects as being able to play any front court spot as well. And he has flashes in his game that he's going to be able to be a really good playmaker too. So I like Torrey Eason a lot. He's got a teammate that I also have in the first round getting drafted that we're not going to really get into today, Alex Fudge. It's really kind of whatever flavor of defender you like. You can talk yourself into either one of them. But Torrey Eason, man, he's so strong. He's fast. He's got functional athleticism. He has good body control. He's really strong defender, man. I love Torrey Eason.
Okay. All right. That was a good sales pitch, car salesman. I appreciate it.
My dad's a car salesman. So.
No, I'll keep it short with Eason. I just need to watch more of him. He's one of those guys. The first time I watched him, I was like, oh, this is going to be this guy that I have to watch, every single game to try to convince myself which way I'm leaning. So that's going to be one of those taking Advil at midnight to try to keep watching more Torrey Eason film. But I'm intrigued with him. I understand everyone's highs. I understand the lows, but it'll be fascinating.
He's not
he
perfect,
seems like one of those
though.
guys.
He's not perfect. He doesn't like have great finishing with both hands. He's not a fluid like offensive play. He's a good finisher, but that's really about it on the offensive end. So like he's not perfect, but I love him.
Well, someone that is perfect is 13th on my board, and I'm quickly finding out that I'm going to be probably going to war with everyone in the draft world because I'm going to end up having him higher than most. But I have Trevor Keels at 13.
Okay.
And this is also someone that I've gone to war with at people at no ceilings. I understand that everyone's quick to point out he had the strong opening game. What has he done since then? And I'm like, well, he's done a lot. And it's you don't need to just chase box scores when you're watching Trevor Keels. I think the guy knows how to play the game the right way. I say he's got like the Marcus Smart factor where it's, he can impact the game without scoring. Like I'd like to see the outside shot come around more consistently, but I just love everything he has in his disposal. I think he's a gamer. He's going to bring it every night on both sides of the floor. He's built like a linebacker. I mean, he's just tough. He plays with passion. So I'm probably going to always have him a little higher than others, just because I think when you get to that lottery range, this is the type of guy you would love to, bet on the upside. And he might not be scoring 20 a game as a rookie, but he might come in and, have that Davion Mitchell or the Marcus Smart or just that type of impact where they're going to set the tone. So I'm a big Trevor Keels guy.
Yeah, that's fair. I had him on my 1.0. I had him ranked 30th, and
thanks a lot. The show's over.
Well, hang on. It gets better. That's 1.0. My 2.0 is a lot different. So previously I had him as the last pick in the first round. And even when I wrote it, I was like, this feels wrong for me. It's just kind of where he shook out. He has since gone up to 22. So as you can see, he's kind of garnering more and more favor in my eye. Okay. And I'm going to be completely honest. It's really hard for me to imagine that Duke has 5 of the 30 best players in the nation on their team. It's just really kind of hard for me to suss out which ones are for real. And Keels does feel for real. Over the past month, his scoring has actually gone up. His rebounding and assists have stayed about the same, but his efficiency numbers have tracked upward as well. So you look at offensive percentile on my 1.0 at that time, about a month ago, he was in the 39th. Now he's in the 63rd. If you look in the defensive percentile, he was in the 61st. Now he's in the 66th. So he's getting better as the season has gone along. And he's doing it on a team where a guy like a Wendell Moore is trending upward. A guy like AJ Griffin is trending upward. Paolo Banchero may be one of our number ones, maybe not, but still he's on that team. And Mark Williams, depending on which center you fall in love with, whatever particular game you're watching, he might be a first-round guy too. So with all these mouths, Keels is actually improving. So respect to you for having the onions to have him in your lottery. I just don't particularly have him there yet, but you never know. He's trending upward already. So
yeah, it's okay. People can be wrong. I'm right, but people can be wrong.
I was just about to say the same thing to you, so it's totally fine.
Hit me with 12. Who do you got?
Hit you with 12. All right. So I know that you and I both love this guy. Previously he was my 10th best player, and now he's fallen down. Yeah, he's all the way down to 12. So I hate his guts today. And he's actually gotten better over the past month, but I think that some guys have just played their way above him. So it's not really necessarily a slight to him. It's just that guys are getting better. Caleb Houston.
Okay.
Caleb Houston.
I get this. I understand it.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we can still be friends here because he's one of these guys that have actually improved, like the aforementioned Trevor Keels, right? He's gotten better over the last month, but I just think that some of these guys have gotten off to such supernova, hot starts that it's just like, I have to acknowledge, I have to take my bias out of it. Biasly, I would love to have him much more higher, but right. If I take the rose-colored lens off, I have to put him just a little bit down, but he's still in the lottery. So he's in a system right now, Tyler. I know that you could talk about this too. They're not necessarily showcasing Caleb Houston. They got aspirations of winning and winning big. He's filling a role for them. I'm just a big fan of his size at 6'8", about 205, 210 pounds. He's giving you nine points, 4 boards, over an assist a half. I love, by the way, if we can just pause there, I don't think that his playmaking flashes get enough love because I've seen him give some, kind of bending around the elbow and throwing whip passes over his head, these like hook whip passes over his head to the opposite corner. I've seen him do that a time or two. And I'm so intrigued because he gives you those same vibes as, dare I say, like a Klay Thompson, where he's not just a shooter, but he can do a little bit more. And that's what I love to see out of a guy like Caleb Houston.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I never thought Caleb was going to be this guy that, another guy we're talking about, like a Johnny Davis, where he just comes in and just puts up 20.
More on him later.
Yeah, more on him later in just a moment, right after these short commercials. No, I just never thought that Caleb was going to be this guy that filled up the box scores, especially as a freshman. Now, I thought he was one of those like Mikal Bridges type of players that, Bridges still went to, back to school for a couple of years. I like Caleb a lot. I think you're spot on, though. I think a lot of people are going to fall not out of love. I'm all out of love. I think people are just going to be like not thrilled about him. Like evaluators are going to be like, well, he's not really doing much. And you're like, well, he's really good. He plays the game the right way. He's going to be a great pro. So I think that's the right on spot, though. I think you're not overreacting.
Some freshmen are just in particularly this year, Tyler, like some freshmen are just in weird spots where they're not going to be like the featured, asset on their squad.
Speaking of more on him later, I have Johnny Davis at 12. So that worked great. A lot of people have him higher. I understand everyone. I'm one of these guys that's like, just keep proving it to me and I'm going to keep moving you up. I think I had him around 25th on my first big board. So I always get a little nervous when I'm going to move someone from 25th to 4th or 5th. Like, I'm like, okay, let me pump the brakes a little bit. So I have him 12 now. He's bringing back the 1990 mid-range game. I have a lot of respect for that. I really like what I've seen from him. I want to watch way more before I start getting him into that top 6, 7 range. So that's all I got to say about Mr. Johnny D. Hit me with 11. All right, unless you want some Johnny D, go ahead.
Well, it's actually perfect that you say that because at number 11, I have Jonathan Davis. So
wow, we're getting good now. If we get the same people, I'm going to be pumped.
We'll see how it goes. But, man, Jonathan Davis, a lot of what you said applies. He's giving you about 21 points per game, over 6 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game. Oh, and by the way, those numbers have climbed over the past month. About 44% from the floor. That has gone up. Only 34% from deep, so he's got to get that number up there. I'm obviously a little tongue-in-cheek with that. He's doing it on really good volume, by the way. 1.5 steals per game, almost a block per game. Offensive percentile, 72nd. Defensive percentile in the 80th. So, I mean, this guy is giving you everything that you want. He has such a mature game. You touched on that mid-range aspect. Dare I say Brandon Roy-esque in that aspect.
Oh,
where
that
it's just
is
like,
nice.
He gives me such feelings for his game that I had with Brandon Roy because he has a handle. He kind of lulls you into sleep a little bit and then rises up and just shoots it right over the top of you, particularly from that mid-range game. So he's a little bit shorter. He's only 6'5", but he has such a mature game. I'm like you. I only had him 44th on my last board, so I'm still giving him love by letting him jump 33 spots, but maybe he continues to work his way up into my top 10. He's knocking on the door already.
No, I hear it. I completely hear you. I think that makes sense. It's just one of those things. I never want to be like the guy that all of a sudden, everyone's talking about one name and I'm like, oh, I got to move him 5th. I'm like, no, I'll move him up if he deserves, but
simmer down. It's okay. We got time. It's only January.
I got Keegan Murray at 11.
Oh,
from
okay.
Iowa.
Okay.
I'm becoming a little bit bigger of a fan than I thought I was going to be. He's just been one of the, kind of a power forward, little 6'8", big boy. If you don't watch Keegan Murray, he's putting up freakish numbers. Every time I watch him, I finds something new that I'm intrigued of, or he impresses me in a different way. And those are usually the guys that if you keep doing that throughout the process, I fall more in love with you. And then I kind of be like, okay, I'm a believer. Let's do this. So I don't know. I've asked around a little bit too. So people like him a lot, which was interesting for me to hear because I thought this was going to be a guy that people weren't sold on. And I think now the more you watch him, the more you're getting convinced. So that's all I got to say about Keegan right now.
So I like Keegan Murray a lot. On my 1.0, I had him 28th, and I thought I was going to be higher than the consensus because kind of like you, I'm like, okay, I feel this guy, but I don't think everyone else is. Well, people had him significantly higher. Now on my 2.0, I have him at 16. And kind of weirdly enough, he's kind of being billed as like this mid-major killer, but against top-notch competition, he's not. If you take away the Iowa State game, and I know you can't just throw out one game, but like theoretically, if you can, where he only scored 9 points on about 23% shooting. He also played
night.
Yeah, he had an off night, which, it happens, strangely enough. But if you look at the other games that he played against really good competition, one of those games is Virginia. Forgive me, I'm blanking on the other game. He still scored like 18 and 19 points. So that one Iowa State game really skews his numbers against, the three real teams, quote unquote, that he's faced. Outside of that Iowa State game, he's still been good, just not bonkers like he has been in other games. I think at one point he's had like a 50 PER, which I don't know if that's even able to be calculated out, but he somehow did it. I'm a big fan of his game though, but I have him at 16. Again, he's risen for me. There are some concerns about the handle, how efficient that outside shot looks, a little bit concerning for me, but he's very versatile, and I think that the defense, it doesn't reflect well on synergy sometimes. We've talked about this before, Tyler. Sometimes the good old eye test is all you need sometimes, because I think that he's significantly better than being in the 9th percentile defensively. That does not make sense to me.
Yeah, and I also think you got to play in your role. He's kind of the engine behind that Iowa team. They got a couple nice pieces, but they're feeding them, so I understand, like, he's not a killer defensively, but I do think he could hold his own. And I'm like you, the ninth percentile, it doesn't scream a guy in the 9th percentile when I've watched him so far. So I'll trust my eyes with that. But that's also something to monitor moving forward.
Just a data point.
All right, the top 10, we're getting juicy. Who do you got for me?
The aforementioned Jalen Duren. Previously had him number 8th on my 1.0.
He's moving down. I'm telling everyone's going to move him down. I'm telling it. I'm jumping on it.
Again, I don't think that he's that bad of a player. I can't move him. Well, I know. I mean, I'm not saying that you think that he's a terrible player. I'm just saying that because I moved him down, it's more so an acknowledgement of the accomplishments of some other guys, right? But
yes,
Duren's in a weird spot, and I'm sure this isn't going to be the first place that other people have heard this, but he doesn't have like a traditional point guard or a table setter on his team. Imani Bates at point hasn't worked out. He's even been come off the bench at certain points during the season, which is really weird, but it is what it is. And I mean, Duren really isn't doing anything to hurt his own stock. It's more so the environment that he's in. I'm a big fan of his playmaking though, Tyler. I don't think that gets discussed enough. I clipped one video where he gets the ball, I think on the left block, and he notices that he has a teammate open on the right wing. So he kind of shimmies to the right, cuts left, tiptoes around the baseline, and throws a wraparound pass to the teammate open on the right wing. Now, the teammate missed it, which, again, is another thing that Duren has to worry about. He doesn't have point guard, and guys can't finish on this team. So he's in a funky spot, but there are enough flashes to where I think he might even be able to outplay my 10th spot that I have him at.
Yeah, I think the passing is definitely starting to show flashes, and you're spot on with there's guys, just because I'm moving him down doesn't mean he's bad. It just means that there's so many guys playing good that are moving above him. So I'm a big believer that it's just going to take some time with him. He's showing the right flashes. The playmaking, like you said, has been fantastic. I definitely think he could climb again. Like, that's the type of late stretch run that all of a sudden teams are like, here's the stretch where he's showing us all the tools. Because I think you're seeing more of the confidence building. That last game, I don't know who they played. Was it against Pitt or someone? He was showing his outside shot a bunch. He hit 3 or 4 jumpers or something.
Yeah,
I don't know if it
mid-range.
was Pitt. I'm trying to pull a team out of my.
I can't remember. I've looked at so much film lately.
They all blur.
Yeah.
They all blur to me. But yeah, it's not like I think bad of Duran. I have Caleb Houston at 10, so we don't have to talk it to in detail. Now we're gonna have repeaters. So why don't we just, like I said before, I believe in Caleb Houston. I think this might be my last big board where I'm gonna keep him in my top 10 maybe until he moves down, and then probably towards the end of the year I'll somehow sneak him up 5 spots without anyone noticing. 9th, hit me. Who do you got?
Patrick Baldwin Jr.
Okay. All right.
I can't keep him out of my top 10. And on my on my 2.0, I said here that from what I've seen from him before, the teammates that he has and his measurables, it makes it almost impossible for me to keep him out of my top 10. He's in a bad spot. I talked about Duran. This is even worse. And you can knock him however you want for having to live with his own decisions by playing with his dad. Everyone talks about that. He's a kid, people make mistakes. I've made them, believe it or not. But I think, if you look at his game, how it's improved over the past month, he's done so efficiently. His 3-point percentage was at 25 on my 1.0. It's now almost at 33. So the shot's starting to fall. And at his size, the way that he moves, you can just fall in love with how aesthetically pleasing his game is from outside and the ability to handle. He can play maybe 3 through 5, gives you some defensive versatility. It's impossible for me, man, for not to see a world where he just plays better at the next level in college. We see that all the time. I mean, Cole Anthony is one example. Jaden McDaniel is another example from out of Washington, where just sometimes people make a bad move to go play in a bad situation. They get punished from where they're drafted, and then they go outplay their draft stock, right? So I think Patrick Baldwin Jr. is right in line with those mold of player.
Yeah, I weirdly kind of love that he's still made that decision, because I think he's getting punched in the mouth and he's going to learn a lot about himself in this year. And he's one of those guys that could have pre-draft workouts and light the gym absolutely on fire and all of a sudden become a hot name coming around the draft. I think when I've watched him, I understand everyone's going to be nervous because of the numbers, if you want to chase that, just because of, like you're saying, that team struggles and they've been overpowered in a lot of games. But I've come away impressed with his playmaking more than his shooting at times, which is something I wasn't expecting. I was expecting just to be in awe of his shot creation, or what I'm trying to say, his range and size. But there's really some feel and some vision that in his game that I've been fascinated with. So I'm like you. I can't have him out of my top 10.
And I think one thing that scouts are noticing, just real quick, Tyler, is that something that I pointed to on my 1.0 is the effort level and how it's not always there, and they question his motor and things like that, which at first bothered me. But since I've watched more and more games of Milwaukee, I kind of understand. It's hard to go and you can ask for more and more and more, and that's fine if you have that expectation. You can pick them wherever you want. I'm starting to understand why he's not at 100 miles an hour all the time on this team.
Right. And it's easy to criticize when we're not in the situation or when someone else isn't in it. But if you're in a boxing ring and you're getting punched in the mouth every night and, you can't punch back, it gets old after a while. So I understand. Number 9, hit me. We're getting to the juice now.
That was my number 9. That was
your 9. I'm sorry. Yep. I'm AJ Griffin.
You're fine.
I'm AJ Griffin. I'm still believing. In the words of Journey, don't stop believing, and I'm still there. I love Journey. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love every classic rock because everyone makes fun of me that I'm way too old with my music taste. But I'm just not giving up hope on AJ Griffin. I had him in my lottery on my 1.0. I think the confidence and the knees are starting to come around. And if you don't know about AJ Griffin, he got hurt in the preseason. In practice, they've been kind of easing him back. People have been going, what the heck's going on? Why aren't they playing him more? And now it seems like he's playing so good they can't keep him off the court at times. Like they have to let pretty much the animal run wild. So I'm intrigued. I want to keep believing because I really do think this is a top 10 talent. If, he's healthy, he gets a, green light on the medicals, because that'll be very, very important for him when draft comes around. But that's where I'm at. What are you thinking about AJ, or do you want to go? Oh, we'll go to 8. We'll go to 8. You don't have to.
I want to save AJ because as much as you believe in him, I might believe in him a little bit more than you.
Hit me with 8.
So number 8, previously ranked number 6 on my 1.0 iteration, is Kendall Brown. Everybody loves him. He's like the draft Twitter darling. That's really hard to say fast, so I had to slow it down. He's fascinating, and you did a great job of breaking him down on your prospect video. I'm a big fan of that project, by the way.
Thank you.
The reason that he's fallen down is because he doesn't have what I'm going to refer to moving forward as traditional shot creation ability. He's not one of these break you down on the dribble. I will acknowledge, though, that his off-ball movement should start counting as shot creation ability. It's just not, the traditional break you down off the dribble, right? The shooting kind of has a little bit of a false bottom to it because he's gone all the way down from a ridiculous 67% a month ago all the way down to a 50%. And I know that 50% is still good, but it's just an indication that volume isn't necessarily the thing that he's relying on there. It's shot selection is key with him, but that defense is there, man. I mean, he's giving you 1.2 steals per game. That's not indicative of how much of a monster he is on that end, though. And just his playmaking, I think that's starting to come around a little bit too. He's just fun to watch, man. Super bouncy, athletic. I think that he is a what Nathan Grubel refers to as a 30-team starter. I don't know if there's a single team that he would not find a way to be in a starting rotation on.
Yeah, don't call Nathan smart on my show. We can't let his head get any bigger than it. I'm kidding, Nathan. I think why I love Kendall Brown so much is because it's like my personal battle with the type of player teams should select earlier than they do. If that makes sense. Like you're saying, yeah, he doesn't have that shot creation ability right now, but Kendall's one of those glue guys that you just add to the puzzle. Like that's the missing piece to finish your puzzle that just helps everyone be better because of his off-ball movement, his ability to read the floor, his awareness. I think that's the guy that deserves to go earlier. Like lottery teams that are in the lottery every year should be taking Kendall Brown so they could try to get out of the lottery. So I understand what you're saying because I think other people are going to get more intrigued with some guys ahead of them, like we're going to probably talk about, because they're the more flashy, like sexy potential franchise swings. But I do think Kendall's going to be an important piece, and I think whoever's going to get him, it's going to be a fun addition. Okay, we're at 8.
Yeah, 8 for you. Yes, sir.
All right, I have Patrick Baldwin, so we're close. We're right there, and I'm like you. I can't get over it. We talked about him. 7, hit me with it. Okay, so we'll go to 7, and then we'll do a quick review, and I'll go back and run back. But 7th, who do you have?
Don't hate me because I know that you're still super high on this guy.
Oh no!
But I had to take him down. He was previously number 4. He's still at 7. It's really not that bad. Okay, Jaden Hardy.
Oh God!
I have to go with what my eyes are telling me. I know you did a great job having Kyle Nishimoto on, and he laid it out beautifully. That he's being put in positions to where they're going to make him uncomfortable, and I get it, but he looks uncomfortable.
Yes.
So I have to acknowledge the fact that he's still figuring it out, and I will give him credit that the points per game have gone up over the last month. His field goal percentage, his 3-point percentage, his steals have all gone up. That's beautiful. I just think that some guys have outplayed where I originally had him projected right now. And that's really it. I'm not a believer in him, and he has the potential to climb right back up because he has a skill set that if it hits, it's one of the hardest to find in the entire league, right? Like he has a beautiful game when it's hitting. And, does he have an elite handle? Still kind of hard for me to evaluate whether or not he has an elite handle. The efficiency, it is what it is. But I was a big, Jalen Green guy last year. So I think that as the season goes on, he'll figure it out. And as we've seen over the last month, it's trending that direction. Just as of right now in January, he's only at number 7, but has the potential to climb right back up there.
I think I was giving you a hard time. I think you're absolutely spot on. I also think me and you might be the last 2 people on earth that end up having him in the top 10 because I feel like everyone's jumping ship right away.
I've heard a board recently. I'm not going to name the name, but I heard a board recently, the audio version, that did not have him at all, and it blew my mind.
In the top 30?
In the top 30. Didn't have him at all. Not even playing.
Busted for using weed.
Not going to name the name because I listen to the show. I'm a fan of the show. Didn't hear his name dropped at all. Maybe I could be wrong, but I'm seeing him. He's falling a lot, dude. Like, as much as I have him dropping 3 positions on my board, he is free falling. Like, steadily free falling.
Some mainstream had him like 18th. I was like, what is going on? I understand everyone's freaking out, but
AJ Griffin was like 44th, I think, on one like really like prominent platform, and he's starting to come back
there
up
on one of them too. I get it. I understand.
Still number 7 for me, Tyler.
I did the pod with Kyle. I don't want to go. Everyone knows how I feel about Hardy. I'm not worried about it. I do think, so I'm going to cut this short. I do think it's a very big, they just postponed or suspended their season a little bit. Postponed, I think was the correct terminology. Yeah. But it's going to be a big second half of the year because he was starting to take some strides with the percentages. Everything was starting to come around. Had a little bit of a rough showcase. I'm not sold on the handles. I do think he has improved drastically from his first couple games. So
absolutely,
we'll see. We're at 7. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was my number 7.
And my 7th, Kendall Brown. So we're right there. We have the right mix of guys. So I had Jalen Duren at 14, Trevor Keels, Johnny Davis, Keegan Murray, Caleb Houston, AJ Griffin, Patrick Baldwin, Kendall Brown. What was your 14 to 7?
14 through 7, I had Kennedy Chandler, Torrey Eason, Caleb Houston, Jonathan Davis, Jalen Duren, Patrick Baldwin Jr., Kendall Brown, Jaden Hardy.
Okay, so almost as good as mine, so we'll give you a gold star. But
better. Did I start on Torrey Eason, by the way? Are you interested?
I'm not there yet. I'm not a guy that jumps on everyone's I like to go against everyone. And then I like to sell myself on, I don't know. I mean, I'm the Joker. I like to introduce chaos. It's all part of the plan.
Every once in a while. That's fine.
I'm like a dog chasing mailman. I don't know what to do.
Never start with the head. Things start getting fuzzy after that, right?
Okay, now we're going to get crazy. All right, hit me with your 6th. Who you got?
As much as I might have hurt your heart with my Hardy take, how much more do you love me for having AJ Griffin number 6 right now?
Whoa!
How much more do you love me for having AJ Griffin number 6 right now?
And I promised everyone I did not remember your big board. I looked through it quick. I was like probably doing some film crap, and I was like, oh gosh, I gotta look at it later.
It's a little bit
6?
of a read.
I love that.
No, there's graphics, there's videos, there's percentages, like everything that you want in the big board, it's there. But
my problem is when I want to hold on before you go.
No, please.
Because I'm not lying to you. My problem with when I could tell someone puts their heart and soul in it, I don't want to glance at it. So what I literally do is just put it on my browser on my phone, and I'm like, "Yep, I'm reading that later." Like, so I promise, I'm gonna.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yes. It doesn't. My heart will go on. But you know,
then we talked about doing this pod, and I didn't want to read your big board because I wanted to save it for later.
I'm enjoying the live reaction because I had no idea what your board is. Like, I didn't even get like a glance or nothing. So I'm learning this as the audience is, which is a lot of fun, by the way.
I'm gonna change this probably before the morning. What are you talking about? I'm kidding.
Dude, I'm messing with my big board
AJ
every
Griffin,
day.
hit me.
AJ Griffin, he has and listen, the counting stats aren't sexy. He's giving you almost 7 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game, just under an assist per game. That's not sexy, right? But we all know the story, right? That he's come back like significantly quicker than what I think 99% of everybody else thought.
Right.
Duke is playing for something and inserting a guy who is coming off multiple lower body injuries quickly and just handing him the keys probably is the move for Coach K's farewell tour, right? Like, we want to see him ride off into the sunset. He's nursing AJ Griffin along. We mentioned that several boards have had him knocked down like out of the first round. I held on to him. I previously had him 12th, right? So based on the recent play and who he was billed to be coming into the season as a top 5 guy, I'm still holding on at 2.0, Tyler. I'm still holding on a little bit to preseason expectations.
Yes.
By 3.0, I feel like I'm going to be like, okay, guy, I'm sorry. I love you, but I have to slide you back a little bit. Or, okay, guy, you're doing enough for me to acknowledge the fact that you do deserve, in fact, to come up on my board for 3.0. That's where I'm living at right now. AJ Griffin showing me enough to climb up 6 spots right now. I'm loving the comeback story. I think that is beautiful. He's an explosive wing, can play either the 2 or the 3, very versatile defender. He's in the 99th percentile offensively per synergy. That's ridiculous, right?
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's good. Being 99th percentile at anything is pretty awesome. And in high school, he was a really good 3-point shooter. He's shooting almost 45% from deep right now, and he's shooting about 55% from the floor. Again, it's really hard to look at the volume of his attempts and things like that, but his minutes are ramping up, and his efficiency is actually getting better with more minutes and more responsibility. That's what you like to see from a guy who was billed to be a top 5 player from preseason.
Yeah, I feel like if Coach K's been hustling all of us and just, excuse me, he's just basically been slowly waiting to unleash the beast. I'll probably take back everything I've ever said about Coach K in a negative way, but you're spot on. Like, this was a top 7 potential pick before the season started. He got hurt. He's been slowly coming back, and he played that first game. No one was expecting it. I'm a big believer still. I think this could be a guy that if he has one big game, we all might be like, oh my gosh, it's time. It's happening. So
Tyler, let me just throw this in there too. In his last 4 games, at the time that I dropped my big board, he's averaged 12 points per game while shooting over 65% from the floor. You said it exactly the perfect way. It seems the more he gets looks and touches, the better he's playing. It seems just the confidence is overflowing lately. So I love it. I'm liking your big board so far. I appreciate it.
I have Benedict Mathurin at 6.
Okay.
I'm a believer, and I wanted to move him up. I looked at my board right before, as we started, hit the record button, and I said, I already want to make 2 changes. So spoiler alert to everyone listening, that might be one of the changes. I just have been so impressed. That's going to be my next prospect video for all of you guys that have listened and seen my first Kendall Brown one. I've been so impressed watching him.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate it. Those are not those are not easy. They're very fun, but they're not easy. But I want to keep moving him up. And every time I watch him, I'm like, this is a really serious piece for an NBA team. Like, whoever gets him, I think he plays the game the right way. He's tough as nails. He's feisty. There was an area of his game that I was very surprised that impressed me that I'm going to talk about a lot in my prospect video. So, yeah, I'm a Mathurin fan. I don't want to spoil too much because I have a midterm coming out about him and the prospect, but go ahead. Go wild, Stephen.
At number 5, I have Benedict Mathurin.
Okay, we're on the right train.
Man, we're clicking, man. We're clicking. 6'7". I've seen different measurements though, man. Like I have him 6'7". I've seen him listed around 6'4" and 6'5" at some other places too. So I don't really know which one to believe, but basically he's just a wing player, right? Really good shooter. As a matter of fact, over the last month from 1.0 to 2.0, he's gone from a 31% 3-point shooter to almost a 38. That's phenomenal. And that was one of my biggest concerns with him. I had him 22nd on my 1.0, and kind of funnily enough, Albert from the Draft Act podcast, we had him on our show and we were talking about sophomores, and we got to Benedict Mathurin before we even recorded. This is kind of like behind the scenes stuff. We both were kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to believe in how Benedict Mathurin plays this year.
You're being polite to Albert, because I know Albert not hated. Albert doesn't hate anyone, but Albert was not a fan. And I was basically like, me and Albert are going to go to war at the end of the year. Albert kept calling him Shumpert, and I was like, I'm going to lose my mind.
He said that on the show. But the thing is that when we were talking about, him coming on the show, we were saying that, and then I started getting into the film on him, and even before we launched the show, I hit Albert up. I was like, I don't know, man. Like, this guy might be the real deal. I was like, I don't know. I'm going to probably eat my words. And I can be happily wrong when a guy like turns it around from my initial thoughts on him. And that's what he's done so far, man. He's a pretty good defender. And since my 1.0 big board, he's had 4 games in which he's had 20 or more points. And that's out of 6 games. The other 2, he still scored more than 10 points on 45% shooting from the floor. So those are his bad games right now. And they're still all right.
Yeah, I think he's checking a lot of boxes in areas. I was expecting him to be this good shooter that I was going to get intrigued, like the rest of the game coming around. And the more you watch him, just the more stands out. Like some of the passes he makes, the decision making, the defensive ability. He just does a lot of stuff. And when you start watching everyone, and you put his, his slate or his resume with everybody else's on tape, you start trending him towards the top. And I really do think he's going to be like a top 7 guy at the end of the year. If he, Arizona has a run and he keeps playing like this, I even think he could be a top 5 guy. I think he's trending that way. So
he's the reason why I don't have Hardy in my top 5, is just because this guy is an electric, explosive scorer. It's hard to keep him out.
Yeah. And that's what you get when you go through the draft process, is you keep just measuring one by one. And right now I'm doing the same thing with Mathurin, where I'm still a believer in Hardy, but that was my debate, was like, okay, like I could move him above. Funny thing before we move on, the funny thing you said about Mathurin was its height. My buddy, your buddy, I know too, Simon, reached out to me once. He's like, I'm not convinced Mathurin's so big. And Nathan, we were talking like back and forth, the 3 of us. And Nathan was like, well, that's because Arizona's lineup's so big, so he looks small. And I was like, that's a really good point, because their centers are both, almost 7-footers. They're huge everywhere else. But I love Mathurin. I don't want to talk about him too long. Okay. Number 5. Who do you got for me? Or no, that was your 5.
That was my number 5.
I'm really good at being behind. I always think I'm the one that's moving the spot. Okay, I'm gonna move my mouse. Number 5, I have Jaden Hardy, who's becoming my prodigal son. I can't give up on him. I'm not going to go too much in detail because we already talked about him. Number 4, we're getting real.
We are. And
this is the drum roll season.
The last sentence I have for him that says, and this is on my 2.0, the last sentence I have for him is that if he could continue to improve and play the way that he is, he could be crashing mini boards in the top 3, maybe even mine. And
did we just get the same person?
He's knocking. He's like right there. Here's Ivy, dude. Like Ivy is number 4 for me. I apply to anyone who has bigger onions than me to put them in their top 3, because I just think like right now it's almost like you're not supposed to right now. Like I don't want to be rude and put him in the top 3 right now, but he's right there. He's 3B right now to me. Just an electric guy. He's proving people that, hey, a sophomore season doesn't have to be a curse. He's he's answering all the questions I think right now that people have had for him coming into the season. The one thing that I think people are still knocking against him right now is finishing with both hands, which he can still do that. He's already done everything else. His 3-point percentage on my 1.0 at the time, he was shooting 43%. That's actually ridiculously gone up to 45. He's shooting 43% from the floor. He's given you almost 17 points per game, 5 boards, over 3 assists. He's in the 87th percentile offensively. He is an athletic freak of nature. He's like starting to give you chase down blocks on a consistent basis, which is frightening for anybody. He's a scary player to me, man. Like, I get intimidated watching him play basketball, and I think that he might be messing up big boards down the line.
I have him at 4-2. Shout out to us being geniuses. I think he's not
Yes.
just knocking on the door of the top 3. I think he's got a battering ram. And if he keeps playing like this, like I've been doing those midterms videos posting them on our YouTube channel at No Ceilings TV, and those are the first 4 guys I watched. I watched all those guys put their midseason highlights together, and I swear when I got to Ivy, I was like, he's a top 3 guy. And my problem is I'm trying to figure out who I'm moving out, because I really like the 3 ahead of him. And I think the next guy on my big board is the one guy I think he can knock out. And I think that's going to be a little spicy. I've kind of hinted to you about it before, but it's just one of those factors. I think he's Ja Morant's evil twin. Like, when I watch him on the court, he is just a demon. And he gets some like defensive rebounds and is just like turbo speed, and then throwing down monster slam. You're like, oh my gosh, like, get the children out of the room, put everyone to bed. It's just crazy. So I love how he plays. The outside shot is taking a leap, and it's more confident. Like, I'm not worried. People get really worried about the fundamentals with guys' shots. Like, if you're putting up high numbers and it works and you're creating separation, I'm going to be fine with your form. Like, people were terrified of Tyrese Halliburton's shot, and I was like, the dude's lethal. He's putting up historic numbers. Can we calm down about the fact that he shoots like Bob Cousy? Like,
Funnily enough, I had Halliburton 4th on my final big board before that draft. So I mean, that's crazy that you said that.
is one of my favorite guys of all time, or evaluations of all time, was Halliburton.
He's a fun player, man. But yeah, Ivy's scary, man. Like I said, I don't want to be rude and kick someone out too soon. Like, I'm going to give them, their 2 weeks notice almost, and just say, all right, you got to go find somewhere else to live now because Ivy's taking your room.
That is, I think I'm giving it 2 weeks notice to my number 3 guy. So go ahead. Who you got 3? Because I feel like we're going to be getting pretty similar here.
This is where, man, it depends on what mood I'm in every day for who I have. 2 and 3. And even my number 1 is a new guy, but I feel bad saying this, but Chet Holmgren for me is number 3.
Oh,
and
you son of a...
I'm sorry.
No, talk to me. Why? Why are you nervous?
It's not the size, and I even wrote about this on
That's
my.
what the girls saying. It's not the size.
It's not the size, and it's not you. It's me. It's really not his frame, and I even wrote in my big board 2.0 that I'm glad that the conversation is steering away from him being skinny, because now people are actually talking about how good at basketball he is, and they're noticing on defense how he puts a hip on someone and he throws off their rhythm. Is very smart, and I affectionately refer to him as a Venus flytrap, because people look at him and they say, okay, like, this is a safe place to land. I'm okay, parking here. And more often than not, when they back him down and they put up their shot, he's either absorbing it in his armpit or he's turning around, dribbling, either pulling up for a 3 or setting up a teammate, because he's a good passer too. The thing is that at least right now, and this could change, and I know the guy that you have number 3, I have a little bit higher, obviously, because we haven't brought him up yet. He could end up falling down for me too. Like, none of these guys are perfect players, and that's what makes this discussion fun. But Chet, to me today, if you're asking me today, which you are, I think that he has the safest skill set right now because he's good at everything else. I just believe, again, today, that the ceiling for the other two guys are a little bit higher, but I'm even starting to doubt that now myself. It's just at some point I had to put an expiration date on when to release 2.0. Come 3.0, I already have a feeling it's going to be completely different.
Yeah, we can pretty much reveal the three names that are left because
yeah,
both
it's not a secret at this point.
So, I have Paulo at 3, and this is the first time I've moved him down, and I think it is the side of the bed you wake up on each day. Whatever one it is your top 3. Because what's so fascinating with Paulo, Jabari Smith, and Chet Holmgren is I think we haven't really seen a debate like this in a really long time. And it's one lethal defensive prospect, one lethal offensive prospect, and one guy that you're thinking might have terrifying upside with both sides. And that's why I get when everyone's like, okay, well, I don't know about Chet. And it's like, well, I get it because you're thinking, is the offense going to come around? Is he just going to be this good defender that's skinny? I understand exactly what you're saying. I have Paulo at 3. And, Paulo's weird to me because I watch him offensively. And I know me and you were going to talk about, or we can just talk about it now if you want. I don't care.
Let's do it, man. That's fine. Right. That's fine. We can get into it.
So Paulo looks like a lot of former Duke guys. Excuse me. Paulo looks like one former Syracuse guy that a lot of people are going to compare it to, and Carmelo Anthony.
And rightfully so. Like, you see it.
You see it. He plays the same way. He's that offensive forward that could space the floor. He's got, elbow extended. You feed him at the elbow. You let him go to work. He's got some flashes of freakishly good footwork with some of the hesitations and stuff, step throughs. But you brought up another name, and we're just going to kind of, because we both know who the top 3 is, we'll kind of just mix these segments together. So you brought up another name that was really fascinating to me, and I wanted to talk about it on this. So the floor is yours.
Well, I wish I could be the guy who said this first and this be groundbreaking news, but of course, Chad Ford, shout out to Chad. He's one of the best out there. He didn't say it, but executives are saying it to him, which makes me feel better about my stance.
Yes.
Is that Jabari Parker at his time, right? Pre-injury Jabari Parker, by the way. I'm not talking about Atlanta and Sacramento. I'm talking about pre-injury at Duke and into Milwaukee. Jabari Parker and Paolo Banchero have so many similarities that it's scary. I mean, you're talking about two guys that are just absolute physical specimens. Jabari's a little bit shorter, right? About 6'8", 6'9". Paolo's about 6'9", 6'10". They're both just really functional athletes, really strong. They play bully ball, that elbow in that you were discussing. There's the talk about how good they are on the defensive end, and there's the talk of, they show flashes of good playmaking ability, but they're both really finishers around the rim. And I just think that those similarities are so scary because, we all know what happened with Jabari, right? Like the multiple lower body injuries. And I'm not saying that because I'm comparing these guys that that's what's going to happen with Paolo Banchero, obviously. It's just that with Paolo Banchero, we might actually see Jabari Parker actualized potential.
Right.
If that makes sense, right? Like we could see who Jabari Parker was supposed to be. And I mean, in Milwaukee, this dude was a 20-point per game scorer. He's freaking scary, right? Could play multiple positions. The jump shot is kind of there. It's just average, right? Like there's nothing that's going to blow you away about him as a shooter, just like Jabari Parker. So I just thought that those two being compared isn't happening enough because obviously now with what we've seen from Jabari Parker, it's not going to get you drafted number 1 overall, right? Like Carmelo Anthony comparison might get you number 1 overall, but it's just a weird similarity that I saw, and I thought it would be cool to talk about, man.
No, I think you're spot on with that because it's really fascinating when you go back and look at the numbers. You compare them kind of where they're at right now. They play the same way. And people forget Jabari at Duke was, sort of a possessed monster. He kind of
He's a
flew all
bully.
over the place. Yeah, he was really athletic and got flying in a hurry. And there's a reason he was one of the top picks in the draft, because he had that athleticism, and unfortunately his knees just kind of shattered over the years, but he's still hooping right now. So, I mean, I do think that there's potential that maybe, like you said, it is the healthy Jabari Parker we're going to see that is all of a sudden 2 inches taller. But, you know, the fact that I have Paulo third isn't bad. It's just one of those, I think you're leaning on him. It's going to be draft dependent or fit dependent. Excuse me. The draft always is. If a team's looking for an offensive addition that could potentially slide alongside, like if the Pistons drafted him to play alongside Isaiah Stewart and play with Cade Cunningham and have a little 1-2, you know, that makes sense to me. But then you talk about the other guys, it's just going to depend on where they end up. So, who do you have it to?
Well, I mean, it's Paulo. It's Paulo.
Okay, so you have it too.
How much more similarities do you need than another Duke guy being drafted second overall than Jabari and Paulo, right? So he's my number 2 guy.
So you have Jabari 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I have Jabari 2.
That's where I had him on my 1.0.
Yes, and it took me a lot to move him up ahead of Paulo. But
Can I ask why you felt comfortable moving ahead of Paulo? Because that's what I did on my 1.0. I had Paulo number 1, and then I moved Jabari up.
Well, so I did this on purpose because I did all those film edits, and I pretty much just watched, like, I wanted to watch all 4 of them in a string of nights because I wanted it to be fresh in my mind. So I was just like, I'm just gonna, who jumps at me? Like, I'm gonna rank that at jumps at me. And when it came to the jump factor, I was like, Jabari jumped at me way more than Paulo. And it wasn't just like the 3-point shooting. I'm just talking about Jabari with his quickness defensively, his feet, his mobility. Like, the tools on both sides look like they have so much more room to grow. Paulo is just a force offensively. I get it. If anyone wanted to draft him early, I completely understand. I think there's more defensive potential that is scratching the surface with Paulo. I think it's just going to take some time to come around because, like, he still has the athletic ability to where he might get out of position, but he understands how to quickly react and make up for stuff. But, you know, and Chet, I really do think Chet is just, you're going to have to be pretty convinced. And if you're convinced and he pans out, like, I just love everything I've seen from Chet. I really do think that could be Evan Mobley again. I think he's not as quick as Mobley is because
I agree.
People were giving Mobley like a hard time, being like, "Oh, he's skinny, he's thin framed in college," and I was like, "Dude, Mobley went at people like with anger. Like, he was not afraid of anyone." So, I think you're getting a really good player with all 3 of them. I just think my last time I watched them, Jabari jumped at me the most, and I felt the best about moving him up because what he's doing from scoring from multiple levels, the defensive upside he's showing, I was not ready for. He just looks like a guy that has a lot of basketball that's untapped to find. You know, he's got a treasure chest that he's showing, but he still has another one that he's going to find down the road. So that's what I'm thinking. And yes, I still have Chet Holmgren number 1, so everyone can eat it. All of you guys, especially you, Steven, that are still taking Jabari first. I still have the thin man. I'm calling him the thin man. I'm printing shirts. I don't care what anyone says.
I call him the Venus flytrap. So I
do like your nickname better. And that is the best description I've ever heard for a prospect because it's so true when you watch him. He knows everyone's going to go at him, and he's just like, yeah, come on in.
Yep.
Come on.
This is a safe place. Come on in.
Yeah, come on in. Your table's right over here. Come on in. We got you the window seat. Yeah, but
there's a lot of players, or analysts that are in your camp too, though. You know, there are a lot of Chet truthers out there, and again, he feels the safest. I feel like if you look at everyone's worst possible outcome, I think that Chet looks better than Jabari and looks better than Paulo, believe it or not. Like, I think that he is a safer dude. And, I don't want to put it, you guys are part of No Ceilings. I don't want to put a ceiling on him, right? But I think the best possible version of the other guys, and Chet might even still be better than Paulo. I think by 3.0, depending on what happens, Chet might actually move up and replace Paulo, right? I just look at Jabari, man, and I get vibes of like a Giannis Antetokounmpo and a Kevin Garnett, where it's just like these guys are he's just gonna work and work and work and fix whatever flaws he has in his game, and he'll give it to you on both sides. And that's why I have him number one, is that he's already a 3-and-D prospect, and he's got the intangibles that you look for in the leadership qualities. Players like that, I have a soft spot in my heart for, and I don't bet against players like that, man.
I think the KG, whenever you throw the KG name around, it's always like everyone's ears perk up and they be like, whoa, 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 whoa. But if you watch him, there's definitely flashes, like way more than you expect if you watch him carefully. I'm not saying he plays with the mentality that KG has or stuff like that. I'm just saying the floor spacing, the way he moves sometimes, like he has a little bit of an elbow pull up where it's like one dribble pull up, stretching the floor. Like you could see some flashes. It's like a more stretched out when it comes to his outside shooting. But okay, well, that was a fun big board. I liked doing that. We might have to do that a couple times.
I'm down, man. Say when.
Well, let's do this draft taboo, but before we do it, because I know we just rambled for a really long time. Did you have any guys you struggled with, or you're still trying to figure out on your big board? Maybe you felt like you should have had them higher than you did.
Boy, do I. There's a couple guys, man, that like I've shared them with you before. I've shared them with other people. I need as much help as I can with them because I see their names pop significantly higher than where I have them. And I want to understand. And I just think, I might need to dive into their film a little bit more because truth be told, I can only watch so much film. Let's start with one guy, Blake Wesley, out of Notre Dame. And I think,
go ahead. I want to talk about Wesley because he's a hot name right now.
He really is, man. So Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame. It's a 6'5" powerhouse guard, and I have a hard time falling in love with him. I get the idea, like aesthetically, he looks like a guy. You know what I mean? Like he looks like he's going to be a force of nature. But when I watch this film, the shot in particular is what I struggle with, right? And to me, if you're a guard, you got to bring some sort of shot creation to the table. Like I get the idea of him as a playmaker. And can somewhat fill in as a shooter a little bit. But I don't know. I think at the next level, he's going to be asked to do more than what he's doing for Notre Dame right now as a shooter. I don't think that you're going to be drafting a Blake Wesley and give him the keys to your offense. And that's what I struggle with, right? Like he's only shooting 34% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. So it's not like that's on like slim volume or anything like that. So that's there for me. As far as being a physical defender, it doesn't really show to me right now either. I have him outside my second round right now because he's one of these guys that I still don't really know what to do with. And I know I've shared a couple clips with you. Do you see any relevancy to the concerns about the shot at all?
I saw when we first talked about him, the shot scared me. I've seen a couple of his most recent games. It looks better. It just like I've seen it and I was like, okay, wait, that looks a lot better than I remembered, which just means I need to go watch more. Like that's just what it comes down to. Because I've seen a couple like catch and shoot where he just really quick, like goes right up with it. You had sent me one before. We kind of talked about it and I was like, whoa, he brings that ball really low. And then he's just been one of these hot names around. I'm not there yet. I like what he's done. I feel like this is the part of draft season where everyone tries to find a guy to throw darts at. Like, look, this is going to be the guy that gets in the lottery. And it's like, let's calm down. Let's give him a couple more weeks. He looks really solid. I like the way he plays the game. He looks like he could pass. Like he's got really nice vision and feel. It's just one of those two. Like that's one you have to watch more in depth because you have to figure out what is his role? Mm-hmm. Is he a solid guard that does a little bit of everything at college? Like, what is he going to do at the next level? Because it's like what you're saying. Like, I kind of have him as one of those guys. We're going to have our top 30. He's knocking at the door, but I don't know if I'm letting him in yet. Like I have his name circled. Like I need to watch him more carefully, but I know some people have had him like in their late teens. It's just, I'm not there yet. So I hear you.
I didn't have him at all on my Lotto, and now he's just like right outside the second. So, and just to kind of give people a little bit of background of how I place guys sometimes, not quite sure what to do with him yet, but based on what I've seen, he's showing that he's going to be at least a second round talent for me. So that's kind of where I'm living at with him right now. The next guy I wanted to ask you about, Tyler, was Aminu Muhammad out of Georgetown.
Yeah, that's a popular name too.
He's funky to me, right? And I love the hustle, I love the effort and the energy. Here lately, his shot has come around. So since my big board placement of where I was going to put guys, he's turning it around. I understand why people are high on him. 6'5" guard out of Georgetown gives you almost 3 offensive rebounds a game. That's insane. Again, I have him right outside the second because I'm not quite sure what to do with the guy. He's very funky, and Georgetown really isn't the easiest place to play. So I was kind of curious to see what your thoughts on Muhammad were, because like I said, these are just players I need help on, man.
He sort of intrigues me, and I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out a better way to describe this, but it's almost like a guy that usually this is a bad thing. And for some reason with him, it's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like he's trying to make basketball moves with his mind before his body catches up. But like that's what the funkiness you're talking about. Like he makes some plays where his body moves all over the place and he like hits a bucket, and I'm like, that looked so weird. And I watched like a couple more and I'm like, it looks like he's almost getting like electrocuted before he like starts to move. It's just crazy. But he also looks like he understands where he's supposed to go with the ball or what he's supposed to do on the court, which is more intriguing that he's making that shot off of like such tough looks. So I definitely was like, okay, I'm actually kind of intrigued like that. He looks like he could be kind of one of these, tool shed type of players that can maybe just do a little bit of everything or help out. Because like the shot didn't scare me too much, and then I saw him shooting from the line. Everything looked solid, is smooth. I was like, okay, like this might just be someone that needs time. He just might need to keep working on his craft. So I was definitely like, I understand all the excitement with evaluators or draft Twitter talking about Aminu. I mean, he looked like a fun guy to keep an eye on. He's only 6'5", really?
That's what he's listed as. He has a heart of a lion, though, dude.
He looks big. I thought he was like 6'7". The funny thing is, the moment I turned the tape on, I was like, "Is this Jeff Green?" Like he looks just like Jeff Green running around.
And where did Jeff Green play?
Exactly.
Right.
All right.
Last guy I had for you.
Okay.
This guy is getting a lot of buzz as of late, and I understand why. He just recorded a triple-double in college basketball with blocks, so he's buzzing around.
Oh.
He made my second round, but Walker Kessler out of Auburn.
Texas Kessler?
Texas Kessler.
So here's my thing with Walker. I think there's always going to be a big man because NBA teams are always going to be intrigued by those guys. Mm-hmm. Especially like teams that need depth with their bigs at the end of the first, like they're always going to be like, who's the flavor of the month that we like? And Walker's just kept producing. He's putting up good numbers alongside Jabari. I don't think it's just because of Jabari. I think he's doing a lot of damage himself. Cause like I watched some Jabari film and I'm like, whoa, Walker, calm down. Like he just weak side blocks out of nowhere. That triple double was an eye opener. I definitely think he could end up going in the first. I think that's a guy that we always have these bigs that are like, oh, he's probably an early second. And then it takes one team to fall in love with them. And they're like, nope, we're taking him at 28. Like, we're not going to get a chance at him later. We love him too much. That's our early rotation big. Like, I could see it. Because like Dayron Sharp last year was one of those guys I had kind of as the early second rounder.
I had him
going in the
as
first.
Early 20s is where I had.
Yeah.
Sharp.
So I think there's that wide range where all it takes is one team to, be fond of the guy, and they might take him early. So what are you thinking of him? Do you like him so far?
I mean, the triple double looked nice.
It was nice. Like, it was a nice night.
It was. He looked really good in that game. It's just that you get into the point to where it's like, all right, out of the centers, do you like Jalen Duren? Do you like Mark Williams? Do you like Koloko, which I know that you do? Do you like Kamagate? And now you're throwing Kessler in that mix. It's like, okay, there's starting to become like a really, hodgepodge group of these big guys. And it really just depends on what you look for in your system from a center, right? I mean, all these guys need to have anchoring abilities, which Kessler looks like he has. I'm just curious, man, because there wasn't a lot of buzz around him as a first-round guy until he had the triple-double, and now everyone's – well, I know a couple people, like we talked about Nathan Grube, like he started buzzing around him before that game as a potential first-round guy, and he's worked his way up into the middle of my second, a large part of it because of that game, and now I'm looking at him through a different lens now, and – again, trying to learn and gather information and other people's thought processes, it helps me as an analyst. So one of the guys I wanted to bring up.
No, I'll be quick on it, but I think early season expectations with prospects and stuff, I think a lot of people try to feel out like what's the position going to offer. I think the big class is a little disappointing because we thought Yannick Soso was going to be this top-notch prospect. That's not happening. I like Kamagate a lot.
I love Kamagate.
I think some teams are going to be kind of lukewarm on him. I like Koloko a lot. I think the same thing could happen. So I think there's going to be a late run of some intrigue with, like, there's room for a big decline. And maybe that could be Walker Kessler. We'll see. But I do think, like, the bigs, once you get past, it's going to be an interesting conversation because are you thinking Jalen Duren's that good? Or are you saying we're going to wait later and potentially try to get value with a big later on, like Mark Williams or something like that? So, yeah,
if you're Houston or Memphis and you got multiple bites at the apple, do you use one of those last bites for a big man,
Right. Okay. Let's do this taboo thing, and this is going to be a great way to end the show because we've been talking forever. I don't want to go too crazy, but you got this idea, and I want you to explain it on the air, and I'm going to try to be a beautiful mind and run with it because I love, chaos and anarchy. So what is this plan? You just want to kind of talk about like plan or things that scare people when it comes to like the draft?
That's exactly it, man. Okay. Because one of the things I love about what we do, Tyler, is that when you start working with other people, you can either piece it together yourself, or when you interview people or host them on your show, you have, draft philosophy discussions, and you start getting into where people's mind go, right? And everyone will tell you that, like, well, I'm going to draft the guy that I think is, the better player. Well, what is your assessment of that better player? You start peeling the onion back a little bit. You start getting into a little bit of bias, and everyone has, and bias, it's a buzzword, it's a trigger word, whatever. Like, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just what basketball player do you think is most important on a team, right? And so you start getting into these taboos, and a couple of these guys that I have in my lottery kind of go against the grain a little bit. It's not I'm trying to be like trendy or hip or anything. It's just the way that, if you're asking me how I look at the game, I think sometimes you can't just have a definitive, well, I don't do this. Because sometimes you're going to be wrong, and sometimes you're going to be wrong in a big way. And one of these biases that I had, we touched on it earlier, was Kennedy Chandler. You start getting into these, well, you never draft a short guard. Short guards don't do anything in the NBA. Well, if you start looking at like how Chandler is built and how some of the best point guards in the NBA are built, they look pretty similar. I mean, you got Chris Paul, you got Trae Young, you talked about Kemba Walker, Dennis Schroeder's around that height range. And I had this conversation with people on Twitter. I even asked, and they're like, well, some of the players that you talked about are 6'1". I'm like, okay, if we're going to split hairs, like if that inch is going to make all the difference in whether or not you're going to draft a guy like Kennedy Chandler is probably going to make you look a little silly. Maybe. I don't know. It's the possibility is there. But when I look at him, we talked about him earlier, how dynamic of a defender he is, and I think that that's under discussed. If you come into a draft with a preconceived notion that you don't take a guy in the lottery just because he's 6 foot, not 6'1", I think that a guy like Kennedy Chandler can mess you up a little bit.
Yeah, I think we hinted on it earlier. I'm a big believer of like, yeah, you should. I think people get fired when they focus on measurables too much. And I'm talking about GMs, front office guys. Like, it's important to take note of it, but at the end of the day, you got to figure out, can the guy play basketball? Is this an NBA player? Is this guy going to be able to help our team? Then you can start focusing on everything else. Like if you have two guys that you love and you see them as similar prospects and one guy is a +5 wingspan and one guy doesn't, yeah, then you probably are going to be more intrigued with the guy that potentially could, be more of a disruptive force. But I just like what I've seen from Kennedy Chandler, and I'm just one of those guys that like I don't really care if you're undersized, if you can play basketball the right way, if your size, now if your size causes problems in a negative way, and
sure,
they are often, yeah, absolutely. I get that. It makes sense. And I'm not saying Chandler's always, I would love if Kennedy Chandler was 6'3" with the 6'6" wingspan. That would be fantastic. He'd be a top 7 pick for me. But I just like how he understands his limitations. He plays the game with pace. And I just am one of those people that like the size thing always bugs me because yes, for everyone that's knocking Kennedy Chandler, they're probably also terrified about Chet Holmgren and his weight. And it's like Chet's also understands how to play with the fact that his frame isn't Jalen Duren. So,
or they're not on the flip side of that, Tyler, or they're not concerned about Chet. And then they have to kind of look at themselves a little bit and say like, well, why am I this way with a different position? You know what I mean? So it's just weird little nuances and people's thought processes that I pay particular attention to. And I don't know, to me, man, Chandler is at least a lottery talent, and I don't care that he's 6 foot. Dude can table set and dude can play defense, and he's a 37% 3-point shooter too. So
one, and I'll do one too, because you sent me a couple. I think that was a good one. I feel like we could kind of almost bring this back to being like a theme throughout the entire year. But the one I feel most passionate about is the upperclassman taboo, which is just everyone's scared of drafting the guy that's the older age. I've been one of these people that I just want to go to war for upperclassmen because I actually think you hinted on it earlier, like I think it's a positive when you go back to school. When you are basically admitting to yourself, like, I can get better as a basketball player if I just develop on my game. If I just go back for some more time and work on my game, I could be a better NBA player. Like, I think that takes more than just being like, I'm going to go to college for 1 year and get out. Like, because we're going to see some guys in this draft class that I could already feel like they need to go back for another year. Last year, Chris Duarte was one of my favorite guys, like watching, because I was just like, this dude's just going to help someone in a big way. And everyone's like, he's 24. He's going to be the oldest rookie that's been drafted in the first round. And I'm like, who cares? He's going to be good and help. Your team's going to take the step forward. Like Wendell Moore's giving me that vibe this year. He kept returning to college. He looks sensational now. It looks like everything's coming together. His confidence. He's been a guy that I keep moving up into my top 30. Like, I think he's trending the right way. I'm a big believer. You go back a couple years there's really good value at the end of the first round. I think the smart teams start taking those guys. The playoff teams start taking those guys when they like, okay, you want to let these guys slip down the board? We're going to take those guys. We're going to take the Desmond Bains. We're going to take all these guys that you just let them fall into our lap. So that's my vent for the day. So go ahead, Stephen, if you got anything else.
Well, just a couple points that you have for that. It's a few things. Is that one? What does this draft class get criticized for? It's not as good as the one before, and it's not as good as what the next one should be. And I think that people, when they look at guys coming back or whatever, they look at it from how can I get the best value possible for you? You can get the best value possible from a Jaden Ivey if you take him before he blows up for an entire season the year before in a more crowded draft class where he's a late first, early second round pick as opposed to a top 5, top 7 pick in this year's draft class, right? So I think people look at it like that too. And I feel safer as an analyst and, if I were to be a GM or anything like that, if I have trend analysis, if I can say, okay, that this guy, like Malcolm Caslon, a guy that I know that both of us really like playing out of Mega Basket, we have trend analysis from him internationally because we've seen every year he just gets better and better. Well, that's what you get from these upperclassmen. You say, wow, this guy was really good, like had a good jump from freshman to sophomore and sophomore to junior, and maybe even as a senior like Ochai Agbaji, he's had a really heck of a good senior year. So I'm with you, man. There's a lot of good points that you can make about the whole I don't ever draft a upperclassman at this range.
Yeah, and I think what you said is my favorite thing is if you go back and take steps forward, that is the biggest part. If you go back and you're staying kind of at the same pace or you're barely, then all of a sudden it's going to be like, okay, well, maybe there's not another level to his game. Maybe that's where teams should get scared. But if you've gone back and you've gotten better every year when it comes to shooting percentages, field goal percentage, outside shooting, your free throw,
decision making, right?
Yeah, your assists, your turnovers went down, you're scoring more each year. Like that's what I think is just it drives me crazy because I'm like, that's what you should want. That's what you should draft. Yes. I think a lot of teams swing for the fences when sometimes you need to try to get a single or a double.
Well, potential, it doesn't always work out in everyone's favor. There's a reason it's called potential is because it might work.
Yes. Potential is a scary, scary word. So, you got anything else, or should I just end it?
I got one more if you don't mind, and it's
go ahead.
It's Jalen Duren. Okay. You get run into this crowd as where there's always centers available in free agency that you can just sign for whatever magical number, or a second round big man always works out. That's not always true. And drafting a traditional big man like a Jalen Duren in the lottery, how did Bam Adebayo look? I mean, there's comparisons that you can make throughout history, but again, if you have this mantra that big men are always available, well, the best teams in the NBA have really good big men, right? And some of them are taken higher than others. And I just feel like if you don't take a Jalen Duren solely because it's your philosophy that he's a big man, I'll just grab one later, you have the potential to miss out. Now, if you grade him out and if you say that and you're like, but he is a really good finisher and he's a really good rebounder, he's a good defender and he can pass too, but because he's a big, I'm going to pass on him. I mean, that's just kind of silly to me. So that was just one last one that I had for the taboo discussion.
No, I agree with you there. My thing with Duren is I just get nervous. I've talked with Tyler Metcalf on the No Ceilings pod about this. I just get nervous with taking the athletic bigs too high when you haven't seen a lot of the other tools come around. And Duren's a different story because he's technically supposed to be a year younger. I mean, that's the word potential you're chasing. Like he's got a lot of potential, but it's like you're saying, do you wait and take Mark Williams or Christian Coloco later? And if you had 2 picks, like which way do you go? Like how do you feel better? And I don't know. Because you need to be able to do something more than just shot block and rebound. You need or be a lob threat because they could go find those guys. You need to bring something else to the table because every year there's going to be those same skill set bigs that can replace you, or they might do something a little bit bigger, like better. So I think it's really important for Duren. He's got to continue to develop the rest of his game because, there's the DeAndre Jordans that go later and they develop and they're defense player of the year type of bigs where they're absolutely fantastic. But Jordan can still pass. Like, he could do some other stuff. You just have to showcase some more. And I still think there's time for Duren to become that. But I'm guilty. I get a little nervous with the bigs with, taking them super early.
And that's fine. Again, it works out a lot, because I think the big men, they get a bad rap of, that they're the most replaceable position. But I think that they exist when other positions, like a shooting guard is essentially a small forward or a point guard now. A power forward is essentially just a bigger three. They don't have that traditional skill set where the center position is still alive and well. It's just adapted to some aspect, or it's kind of run by committee now. And it's still a prominent position. And I think that there can be some value given when you have a unique guy like, in my opinion, Duren, who also flashes really good playmaking ability in a system that's not really set up to succeed well like Memphis's offense.
Right. Stephen, I'm going to have to do it. I got to end this. We've been talking for over an hour and a half.
Fair enough.
If we don't stop now, people are going to start to wonder if we are ever going to escape this podcast. But no, this was an absolute blast. I want to have you on way more often. I was pumped to get this on. Thank you for coming on. Please, one more plug, shameless plug. You got to tell everybody about your big board, your work, your podcast, everything, because you're all over the place right now. You're grinding your ass off.
Well, I appreciate that again, man. Like, not just lip service. I'm going to tell you this when we sign off from the pod. I really do appreciate you having me on.
Yes.
It's an honor and a pleasure. You're one of the best in the business right now, so it's cool that you even want to talk shop with me. A couple things I have in the works. I'm going to have your boy Metcalf on Draft Capital here soon. We're going to be talking about a lot of people's favorite players. We're going to be talking about Alex Fudge, Torrey Eason, Jeremy Sohan, and your boy Kendall Brown. We're going to get into all those funky forwards, man. It's going to be a really good show. And then on the 4th, I am going to be going on a road trip up to South Carolina to scout Jabari Smith. So I'm really excited about that. Going to be scouting that Auburn game. If you want to hear more about that, Draft Capital, you want to see post clips and stuff like that on Twitter at Stephen G Hoops. Again, Draft Capital. I'm also with Off the Ball Network, which is where my co-host and I reside as far as writing and things like that. So go to offtheballnetwork.com for all your sports needs. We also have a Substack now for Off the Ball Network, and we have every sport that you want. We have it. So, not just college hoops where we got a few people that contribute there, but football, college football, hockey, all that fun stuff. It's there.
Yes, please go follow Steven. Like I said, he's all over the place. He's an animal. Exciting for the draft stuff coming up. If you guys aren't following No Ceilings, go check out that.
You're messed up if you're not. I'm just going to put that out there. So you don't have to say it. I'll say it. No Ceilings is where it's at. It's a cool place, man.
No, so you can follow that. No Ceilings NBA on all social media accounts. For myself, Tyler Rucker, I was joined by Stephen Gillaspie. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys soon. Take care.